even though I don't want to hear where did you get your ideas from. You failed. I'm going to wait. Somebody's got to have this one question. Thank you, sir.
Early on, you talked about early when you decided you were going to be the veterinarian.
Yes.
At that point, did you ever feel like you wanted to be a writer when you were younger as well, too? Or did you see a connection there?
It built slowly. Because at first it started off from just this desire. I think anybody, there's a whole adage you can't teach somebody to write, and I don't agree with that. I mean, I've taught writing at different conferences, and I know Book Passage has their own little writing conference here, too. I do believe you can actually teach people how to write. What you can't teach people is to be sort of natural storytellers. And so I think you have to have that desire to want to tell stories, to enjoy telling stories, to know how to build a good story. And there's some fundamentals in that. And then the tools of the craft, how to write, are perfectly teachable. So for me, it started out as just, I love telling stories. Eventually, mostly to keep track of my lies, I had to start writing them down. What did I tell Chuck? Yes, the ventriloquist owl is alive. Okay. And then eventually when I went to junior high, I had a teacher that was very influential. They really encouraged the students to write, and I just loved it. And then it just sort of grew from there.
But the science end of it, you weren't afraid of blood and guts. I mean, that's the thing about science. Some people can't, I mean, that's a big wall to get into that.
Sure.
You get right in there and do that, whether it's any kind of medicine, getting in there with the blood and guts of it.
It was. I remember when I was doing my first, I worked for a veterinarian in Sacramento in my undergraduate years. And I remember him saying, okay, we're going to draw blood. It's the first time I've seen blood being drawn. He said, now, the last student we had in here fainted. So I was like expecting something really gruesome. I just, we'll read in a tube, it's fine. But yeah, there's a certain amount of adjustment. Yes.
We don't. It's another thing to reveal, but without revealing too much, as we talked a little bit about Thomas Jefferson before we started. Just a little bit about him and his connection.
Sure. Well, Thomas Jefferson, of all the founding fathers, he's a bit of a. He's always been a bit of a riddle. He's actually been more of a, and he will admit this. There's some of his writing. He admits that he's really more of a scientist than a politician. Also, a little bit of a paranoid politician at that. He loved secret codes. Matter of fact, he built with a friend to devise a secret code that's only took until 2007 for it to finally be cracked. It was that uncrackable. So he liked playing with that. His secretary was Meriwether Lewis, who was eventually became Lewis and Clark. And that whole relationship is critical to the story. And there's a lot of controversy about the death of Lewis. Meriwether Lewis died in Tennessee. He was ruled with suicide. This was his death. He shot himself in the belly, shot himself in the head. He did not die. He lived for 12 hours and eventually expired. Does that sound like a suicide? It does not. Newest forensic now, from both studying the historical record, is that it was a murder, that Lewis was murdered. So, despite what I just described to you, everybody knew. Why didn't anybody think that he was murdered? Why did they just label it a suicide and cover it up? Well, I have my theory. And also in regards to that Lewis and Clark expedition, is that in 1803, I think it's 1803, Jefferson sent a secret letter to Congress, and it was just relatively recently revealed. And it was a letter to Congress telling that there's actually a secret mission behind the Lewis and Clark expedition. It's not just an expedition exploration. There was a purpose to that expedition. And again,